Let's talk about the structural things, because I think that's one thing missing from this, is
Yeah.
how we can actually edit the structural elements, the beams, rafters, etc.
Yes, actually, this building part here, as you can see, it is having quite a few beams and all of this structure. Well, let me just jump back again to talk about something simpler and then move on to the detailed one. So, going back to the simple building, this one. Last time we talked about how you can set up, and let me just simply make it this roof only visible. So last time we talked about that a roof can be very simple, it can be very complex, and anything in between. So when you say that you would like to work with a simple roof style, this is coming with the software, you will find something like this. If you go with the complex roof style, with tiling layer only, then this is what you see. And anything in between you can control using these values. So if my roof structure is not containing any sort of color beam or something like that, I can turn it off and I can update the content and I can see that it's missing there. Same way I can turn off the ridge board, I can turn on off battens, and I can turn off or on any other structure like these here. See, if I turn it on, it's represented. If I do it otherwise, it is coming back. So talking about framing, the rafter, and what I do here is represented anywhere else. The same thing I can do with the battens, something similar is what I can do with ridge boards and so on. So the rafter is especially the rafter is something that is repeating itself using a frequency which is called the beam gap.
Mm-hmm.
Now this controls the distance between these here. So if you change it, let's just change it to something smaller and update. Now I obviously have more beams.
So it's
if I
more
change
dense.
it to something very large, then I have this here. And sometimes, or actually in many sort of structure, you can see that there is a rafter frame which is kind of stronger than the others. So it has a different cross section. Sometimes the cross section itself is also different, but sometimes it's the same, just with bigger thickness and height. So it comes with something that we call, you can add multi-framing to the same roof. So you don't have to build up one roof, two roofs, three roofs just for the same reason.
But you can have multiple varying sizes of rafters.
You can just add the new one, and by default this new one inherits the settings of the original one, so it won't be visible. But if you say that, well, okay, this is something in between, so I should use 0.6, let's update. Now this way I still only see the same what I already saw before.
Yes.
But now, if I go to the settings, now this is a simple rectangle, and I go and change the settings of this rectangle and say, well, I don't know, let's just make it half the size. I know perhaps it's too weak, but I think this way it will be very well visible. I think it was original, sorry, I made a mistake, it's there. So I turn it off because I don't want to change all the size. So I just change it to half the size of the original, so it's thinner. And then I click update, then I can see that there is the stronger one, weak ones, stronger one, weak ones, and because
there are
I use the
three
same
weak ones between two strong ones, and
Yeah.
it's plainly
Yeah.
visible.
Yeah, and it's because I used 0.6 and it's multiplied by 4, it was 2.4. So I just used the right pattern to be able to set it up, but it's very easy, as you can see. The point is that the software also recognizes that if there is a weak one coming overlapping a stronger one, it won't create two at the same spot. It will just simply remove the weak one, it will
That's
keep
right.
the other one.
And also you can save this into a style.
Yeah.
So this will be part of your style.
This whole thing is something that you can save here if you're satisfied with the result, or the same way actually you can even create glass roofs or something like that. Let's just go a little bit into that. I don't want to create a complete glass roof
But
here,
this would be the way
as you
to
can
go.
see, there is an I profile, a C profile, an L profile. These are steel profiles that you can use, and you can say that, well, okay, that this here is an I profile, and I changed the material for that. The other one is also something similar. I actually completely remove this here because I only want to see the main frame, and in between the main frame I would like to see something like a glass surface, and it's coming at the roof tiles, because actually this is one layer. As you can see that the layers and geometry contains two two layers, and the first layer is used as a roof tile. So I can change this to something like glass. I can position it the way we discussed it last time, and then it falls to the proper place. So this way you can even create a glass roof using the same settings.
What happens if you want to individually move the rafters, beams, etc.? What happens if for some whatever reason you want to modify it by hand?
Let's use the original one. I think I stored it here. Yeah, it was this one. Let's work with this here on this smaller roof. If I just enable it and I say okay, I can see the beams are visible here, and for some reason they are not visible in the 2D. We covered this yesterday, the day before, but I think it's wise to talk about it again. So the way you can control and see them in the 2D is here. So you can just turn on the visibility of the 2D beams, and you can say okay, and then you will see the beams. Now, actually, in ARCHLine, everything is considered as beam, even if it's a button, even if it's a rafter. So it's the structure, it's the framing, literally. So if I would like to move this one, for example, here, then I just zoom in, I click on the side, and I say, okay, I would like to do something with the roof framing, and I can make my choice. I can insert a new beam, I can move one single beam, I can move the complete framing. This comes very handy if you would like to, stitch it next to snap it next to an existing wall or something like that. Or if you would like to double the beams, you can just click here and you can say that, well, okay, that's a roof framing, and I would like to insert a new beam, and I would like to double the existing one. Or the same way, perhaps I only want to move this because perhaps there is a chimney coming out and it shouldn't be there. So I click there, roof framing, and I say, okay, move this beam and move it graphically, or I can type the distance. It should be, I don't know, 0.3, I think 9 in meters, yeah. So I just move it 30 centimeters away.
Perfect. So every time you want to edit something, just right-click on that element, go to roof framing, and there you would have all the
software understands where you clicked. If this would be the buttons, there is a secret here in this roof range which I will uncover soon. But if these horizontal lines would be buttons, for example, you can do the same thing with the buttons. You can just add new. You can double the buttons. You can just move them. You can do whatever you want. Obviously, if you cut a hole into the roof, it will remove these parts, and then you can snap the framing next to it. And actually, sometimes if the roof is much more complex than this, you will find by default things where the software cannot just figure out automatically how these rafters or any other parts should be snapped together, because if it's snapped here, then it cannot be snapped on the other side. So you can solve it manually by simply right-clicking here and say, okay, this roof framing, the whole framing should be moved and snapping to the other one, and that's it. And so now from everything from here is snapped, but the rest is perhaps not that much.
Perfect. You mentioned cuts and holes in roofs, so I think regarding this, you have something to share with us?
It's actually, well, there is one other thing, yes, about how this roof and the wall structure is connected together. But before that, I promised that there is a secret here in this roof. And
let's see that first.
Secret is that actually, if I uncover what it contains, let me just disable the roof layer so we can see only the structure, like this. See, now this is interesting because there is this cavity, and there is like planking here. Mm-hmm. And this actually is made out of battens. By simply, changing their widths and heights, and just using the same frequency for the distance of battens as the width of the battens, and then this makes like a planking or something like that. So this way, actually, you can also build up another batten on top of this, which really literally works as a batten, holding the tiling, which I will talk about soon. And then you can just build up a way more complex roof structure using this same simple.
Or you could have this method to cover the rafters from below, right?